I welcome you all to the first talk in that session. It's developing for Windows 10, presented by a Qt company guy, Maurice Kalinowski. Yeah, have fun.
Good morning. I hope you were enjoying the party yesterday evening and still have some energy left for today. First question, who was at my yesterday's talk about Windows 10? Okay, majority but not all. So I'm going to repeat some slides to give some background for those who were not attending. For the others, it's repeating story. Let's start. So there was a Microsoft event yesterday, and I kept that as a placeholder in terms of something surprising happened. But there's mostly a couple of new neat devices you want to start developing on. And if you want to start developing on, this is the right track to get started. The agenda for today looks like that we're going first to talk about what you need to do with your system, how you can update, what you need to install from the Microsoft side to get started. Afterwards, we're going to talk about how to set up Qt. We're going to show a bit like how you set up Creator, create a kit, start debugging, how all those things come together. Following to that, I want to go into platform-specific items. And lastly, talk about Windows 10 IoT Core, how you can get started there, the embedded Raspberry Pi, for instance. And as a very last topic, I want to go to deployment, like how do you get your application van package together for the store, what do we have right now, and also open up a discussion for after the session, how we can improve on that. When we're talking about Windows 10, that's already what I said yesterday. We're talking about three platforms: Windows 10 Desktop, like the evolution of what is there right now; Windows 10 Mobile, with the first devices coming out at the end of the year; and Windows 10 IoT Core as the pitch of Microsoft to go into the embedded segment and in targeting the maker scene. What I also still want to emphasize, like yesterday, is if you are a desktop developer / classic app developer, Qt will continue to support that also on Windows 10 and also in all future releases of Microsoft. We know that still is the majority of you doing desktop applications. I just want to make this as a very clear point. However, if you're targeting Windows Store apps or universal apps, for Windows 10 we are aiming to have full support with Qt 5.6. We have some preliminary support in 5.5, but if you really want to publish an application, you should wait until 5.6 is out. It's like end of the year, it's 8 weeks or such. Prerequisites are having a Windows 10 machine, Visual Studio 2015, and or the corresponding Windows 10 SDK. If you want to target Windows 10 and already have an application, there is no need for you to rush. Also, let me be clear on that. So that means you can still publish an application for Windows Phone 8.1 or Windows 8.1 and then push it towards Windows 10 and then claim it to be compatible. There's quite some efforts Microsoft also did to have compatibility mode for old applications, so you don't need to rush if you already use Qt for WinRT. However, if you want to start, as I said, my suggestion is to go towards Qt 5.6. Okay. Unfortunately, we will need quite some time on this item. It's not as simple setting up your system with Visual Studio and everything. First important item is if you install Visual Studio 2015, you will need to select Universal Windows App Development Tools. It's not enabled by default. Even it's the default offering by Microsoft, it's not enabled by default. More problematically, if you were using your development machine was a Windows 8 machine and you've been using the upgrade process, that item is not visible in the installer. So there has been some technical hiccups apparently on the Microsoft side. The problem is you will need to reset, and let me be clear, reset means you will need to reinstall all your applications. So first recommendation is to start with a clean setup, clean installation of Windows 10. Following to that, if you use the Visual Studio Online installer, that has some broken components. It will at one point stop with saying setup package is missing. So once again, the recommendation from my side is take the Visual Studio Offline installer, which is quite big, admittedly, and then run through all the update processes which is available there. That is the only safe way to really get started properly. Use a Windows 10 clean installation, take the offline Visual Studio, and then update, and then you should be ready to go. Almost. When you're starting an application, a C++ application, independently of Qt, we were trying to pinpoint what the issue on our side is until we figured out it's not our issue. In Visual Studio 2015, there is a new capability called XML UI debugging, which is nice if you do XML stuff, you can change properties live, pretty similar to what we have with the QML preview and then the property browser for QML. However, if you're doing C++ applications, that kind of collides, and you will see your application crash in some library, which is called XML UI debugger. If you're targeting Windows 10 desktop, you can update the tools. There's an update, that's an update being provided by Visual Studio itself. So update to Development Tools 1.1 for Windows 10 SDK, and that's when you're ready to go. If you're targeting Windows 10 mobile, the emulators currently being shipped with Visual Studio do not have those updates. So you need to either wait for new emulators or go to the settings and disable UI debugging. Then it just works out of the box, mostly. One last item. If you want to use Qt Creator, and I hope you do, you still needed to set up manually the debugging. You needed to get CDB from the SDK. CDB is not something being deployed automatically with Visual Studio. In the old setup with Windows 8.1 and older SDK, that was fairly easy. You downloaded the SDK installer, only selected CDB, went for it, and were done. With Windows 10, it's a bit more problematic. You will get that installer, as you can see it there. If you select only the debugger, it will tell you, well, there's nothing for me to install, and I will just stop. If you select everything, meaning the Windows Software Development Kit and the App Certification Kit, plus the debugging tools, which is what you need, it will state in the end that all features are installed. So it only does a check if the SDK is installed and doesn't install anything in addition if the version of the SDK matches the one being installed by Visual Studio already. But what it does, it downloads a lot of packages. And at the bottom, you can see two packages being called x86 or x64 debuggers. That is the CDB package inside that. So it does download everything and then figures out, okay, there is some, I don't need to do anything, which is wrong, but you still get the package and then can launch that manually. Sorry for that. Okay, once you have done all that, setting up Qt. The easiest approach is to clone right now from Gerrit or from code.qt.io. Check out the 5.6 branch. And pretty similar to what like it was for Windows 8.1, you call configure with -x platform, WinRT, then the CPU architecture, x86, x64, or ARM, and then MSVC 2015. We use 2015 as a denominator for Windows 10 support then as well. It runs through. In the end, you call nmake or yum. Sorry, I'm using yum, not nmake. Get a coffee, wait for it, and be done. So maybe I should now just start with showing you a bit around. Let me quickly... There we go. So here you have yeah, that's visible. Okay, so here you have basically the setup when you have compiled everything. What I have here in that environment in the CMD is just the path to Qt build. So if you check where qmag is, it's basically there. It's nothing else in my command line, so no magic as such. Afterwards, maybe we start with Qt Creator. So we have been setting up everything. You will need Qt Creator master branch. So we do have a couple of Windows 10 related fixes which are not in the current version is 3.5, in the 3.5 branch, but will be in 3.6 when also available. So if you want to start up right now, you please use the master branch. If you haven't been doing WinRT applications, the plugin itself, is it visible? Oh, that's a bit small, sorry. You need to manually enable the plugin because we still claim it to be an experimental state here, integration, because there's, well, the communication with the debugging services, etc., that's changing rapidly also on the Microsoft side. So we keep that as an experimental plugin as for now. After you have enabled it, you want to create a kit. So you go to Tools Options. You select the Qt version, like we mentioned before. You specify where QMake is located. And then it automatically detects what you want to do. It detects the right debugger, etc. And when you go for the kit, let me take that one. You have to make sure that you select Windows Runtime. Windows Runtime Local UI for the device, so that we know that you want to start it locally and not somewhere remote. The compiler is detected automatically, same as CDB, and the Qt version also being automatically set. That's all you need to do from the creator side. So maybe we just start a new project. Get quick controls, say it, demo, yes. Just go, go, go. That's the setups I have made. Let's start with WinRT. Maybe I should have called it Windows 10. And that's the vanilla setup you have. If you start the application, you will see that it starts compiling. That is the call of WinDeployQt. WinDeployQt is the tool which fetches everything for you together. Because you do have on Windows 10, same like on WinRT, the packaging format. So everything needs to be packaged to an AppX. That implies also all the Qt libraries, the QML imports and everything. So that is happening with WinDeployQt. Afterwards, we call a tool called WinRT Runner, which registers it to the system and launches the application. So not much magic here. Maybe I can also show you that debugging works. So you set a breakpoint here, restart the application again. Or maybe not. Demo effect. I'm sorry. That happens if you do it too often. That's the project. It should work. When I tried it yesterday, it was actually working. I'm sorry for that. But when it's the same regular debugging experience usually you have, with right side you can see all the watchers, all the variable names you can change, etc. So like you've been knowing it from the other platforms. Sorry for that right now. But maybe I should just then move on, because there's one item we have, that the problem we have is that we cannot debug from Qt Creator on mobile devices, as well as for Windows 10 IoT Core yet. The reason is that the debugging protocol is not public. So either we need to do lots of reverse engineering to get to know how core connectivity works in the background. We have to see whether we're going to do that, but we need to have a solution long term. Right now we don't have. So maybe we just switch to Visual Studio then at that point in time. And maybe, does anyone of you know the Qt Quick Controls re-engineered is the official term right now? Has anyone of you been using Qt Quick Controls so far? Okay. So Qt Quick Controls is a set of QML items you can use to basically, but it starts with a simple button, tab views, etc., lists, and etc., etc. Qt Quick Controls 1 being having a native theme, and Qt Quick Controls 2, Qt Quick Controls re-engineered, is the setup for embedded, because we know that if you integrate with native styling and all those things, and want to then deploy that towards embedded devices which have a very limited power set, that can have performance issues, and that's why we were revisiting the whole Qt Quick Controls setup. Gabriel is going to do a talk later on it today, so I can only recommend that. But let me open an example from that. Quick Controls. Let me take the mirroring one. So what you need to do is call qmake-tpvc to open or to create a Visual Studio solution. What you then need to call is as well config plus equals WinDeployQt, which tells the Visual Studio project to call WinDeployQt when it is supposed to package everything together. If you do not add that, and there's reasons why you might want to not do that, it will not put the Qt libraries, etc., into the package. So there is a dependency setup, a package setup. So for instance, you could have Qt as one package, and then your application just depends on that. So that is why you might want to use or might not want to use WinDeployQt. In a regular application developer case, you want to use WinDeployQt. As you can see, it then created VCX project file and a filters file. It also was doing some manifest magic, which I'm going to be talking about a bit later. So let's open the project itself. And here we go. So you can see there's a couple of files, there's logos added, etc., etc. The easiest way would be, I wanted to show that, well, debugging in Visual Studio should work, right? I put a breakpoint here. Yes, and start building. If you see that warning just as a side comment, don't bother about it. It's a NuGet issue, but you have to have a solution file, etc., to be able to do some NuGet packaging magic. It does not have an impact at all on your Qt application. And here you can see some, the breakpoint has been hit, you can see the variables, etc. What's pretty neat actually in Visual Studio is those debugging tools, or diagnostic tools they call it on the right side. Maybe I just continue running the application so you can see what's happening there. So you see like, this is the memory being used from your application, CPU usage, etc. So they have been doing quite some neat features in there. And that's when the example which I was referring to, the Qt controls re-engineered with some standard setups like checkboxes, radio buttons, etc., etc. So that's working out of the box. If you want to target Windows 10 Mobile, maybe I should note, because maybe you're wondering why the application still runs. On WinRT and Windows 10, applications are not supposed to exit. It's the system to decide when your application dies. You can manually invoke exit. You will get, well, actually now it's allowed in the store. A couple of years ago, it wasn't even allowed in the store, so they have had some API checking, like what were you calling? If you were calling exit, your app would not be accepted. You can do it these days, and you see it on some applications, like sports trackers or whatever applications, which ask you, do you really want to quit? When they are calling exit. Otherwise, and the default case is that you are not supposed to quit your application. You will get an unsuspended signal, so you can react to that if the system decides that you are suspending the application. But you will not get any recovery or any notification when it goes from suspended to killed. So that's a bit of different habits, and you need to take care of that in terms of saving settings, making sure that all your settings are in a proper state, etc., and also in terms of recovery. Okay, I wanted to go towards Windows 10 Mobile. Windows 10 Mobile has, well, you have the devices, which are obviously ARM, and then there's also the emulator included, which goes with the x86 setup. So if you want to test now your application, how that one works on a mobile device, you basically select that one and just run. And the interesting thing is, it's the same make spec you're using for targeting the desktop as well as targeting Windows 10 Mobile emulator. And the same applies also to the ARM setup. If you compile Qt with WinRT Arm MSVC 2015, that very same binary is capable of running on any Windows 10 mobile device as well as on a Raspberry Pi as well as on any Windows 10 ARM device. That is also the reason why we do not need anymore, like on Windows 8.1, where we have had WinRT make specs, Windows Phone make specs, and you need to create quite a couple of packages. That is not needed anymore with Windows 10. You have just WinRT Arm MSVC 2015 and can deploy that application to whatever device you want. There is runtime checks you can do, like what type of device do I now actually run on, and do I have camera, do I have hardware buttons, etc. So that also requires a change in that takes quite long. All right. Thank you. So that requires also a change in habit, like checking on runtime, where is my application now actually being run? Maybe I should make that a bit smaller. Yeah, so here you can see when your application also running on inside of the emulator. Right. Any questions regarding so far the setup before I go into any platform specifics? Okay. Then manifests. Manifests do describe like all the very specific items, like who is the publisher, what type of application that is, what icon is supposed to use, in which size, icons in multiple sizes, what my application requires, location, sensors, etc., internet, etc., etc. In QMake, we provide variables for quite a lot of those items, but by far not for all. For instance, you can see we have templates for the various logo sizes, like small, large, etc. But to be honest, Microsoft is faster in introducing new sizes than we are capable of catching up with introducing variable names in QMake releases. That leads to the point that you might want to have your own manifest or your own manifest template, which is something, for some reason, we haven't been seeing so many people being using, and that's why I want to emphasize that you can do that. So you can use all those variables, like WinRT manifest, logo large, and set an icon. If you want to use your own icon size, like now being introduced 320 times 320 pixels, you will need to have your own manifest, or you can create your own manifest template. And I want to show that to you. So let me duplicate the display. So I have another project here already prepared for that. And all as such you need to do then is in your profile specify WinRT manifest equals my template. And let me now quickly open the template itself, because you can see inside there you still have lots of those placement holders. Like you can still set with that template who am I, etc., etc. But if you go a bit below, you can see here I'm actually using my very own icons. So you can also merge those two together. For instance, if your company wants to have like a custom template, our application is supposed to have those icons. You create your template, specify that in the profile, and still can use the other variables like for colors and capabilities, etc. Another item, and now we're going into platform specifics. Who of you knows what a live tile is? Couple? Okay. Live tiles is basically in Windows 10 what you can see here. So you can have an application icon being placed into your start menu, and you can have additional information being displayed there. Like, well, you see some oil prices, etc., like they're on newspapers, etc. It is some kind of push notification, but it is kind of different. There's different means to implement that. You can use the manifest, which is why I was referring to that right now. Inside your manifest file, you can specify. Let me quickly. Okay, like it should be visible. Is that readable for everyone? Maybe that's a bit better. So you can specify it in the manifest, like you can see here. You specify basically an XML file somewhere on the web, and you can specify how often it should fetch that XML file. Sounds pretty simple, and it actually is. So if you run that application, you will see as soon as, let me quickly, so here's the entry, I'm going to drag that here, and you can see it has downloaded amazing stunning text from that web address. You can also specify what is supposed to happen on multiple sizes, so if you move that to large, you can also specify images, etc., etc. But you need to manipulate the manifest file for that then. If you want to see how that one then looks on what you need to place on the server, it's a simple XML description where you basically specify, there's a couple of templates, like what you've seen before, the square one. For that square one, please send that text, so you can have also very much customized information for the various different sizes, images, etc., etc. There's also programmatic means to set a live tile. So the XML and fetching that from online is interesting for games, like if you want to send an update or for news or whatever. But sometimes you also want to set live tiles in your application itself. You cannot do that programmatically. We do not have a Qt API for that, but that doesn't mean that you cannot use the native API for doing that. Okay. That one we actually had already. So let's already start on moving to Windows 10 IoT Core. I was giving a bigger summary on Windows 10 IoT Core yesterday already, but to summarize, it's basically Microsoft's approach to target the maker scene. Most prominently, they are using the Raspberry Pi2 to also get some traction. You can use Visual Studio, you can get a Pi. Actually, these days, there's also a starter kit. You can get everything with Visual Studio, etc., etc., and a Pi and some lamps, some LEDs, etc. But let me be pretty clear on one item. That is that Microsoft is just starting that effort. As you can see, the limitations on the lower side, you are supposed to only have one UI process. It's not like on embedded Linux where you can have a full platform being implemented or such. You only have one UI process. If you want to have multiple applications showing something, well, then you need to create your own window manager. You also don't have store access. So that implies all the benefits you might get from creating a Windows Store application is not available on Windows 10 IoT Core. So it's really made right now for a very specific set, single UI applications or headless device creation. That might change in the future, but that's the status as of now. It's also not fully released yet, so they don't claim it to be as a public final release. You can get access to that if you go to the Windows Insider program, and then you can download all information. And that is actually, compared to the desktop setup, pretty good described. So it asks you, like, which board do you want to start with? Following to that, it tells you, okay, you can download this image, this is how you do it, this is all the various steps, this is how you set up the connection to the device. So compared to desktop development, description is very, very neat, and you basically really only need to follow that, and then you're ready to go. When you want to use Qt for that, let me quickly open. Okay. So you will need. I'm sorry. Once again, this is more like a script for me to set up the environment properly. It sets the path to QMake, and if you check the QMake spec itself, like I said, this is now the ARM version, which you will need for Raspberry Pi, etc. So it's at the lower side, you can see WinRT-ARM-MSVC 2015. You can use that make spec for Windows 10 Mobile as well as Windows 10 IoT Core. Maybe just use the same project again. Yes, stop debugging, no. Go to the same project, clean up before. Call qmake-dpvc, again, config plus equals win deploy Qt. Oops. There you go. And then we open Visual Studio again. The setup is going to be very much the same, so there's no visual difference as of now. There is a couple of items you need to take care of, and that is why I wanted to show you that. You need to go to, oops, that was the wrong one. So you need to go to the properties, and inside debugging, machine name specifies the IP you need to set, so that's probably something local. Require authentication, it's kind of weird, that needs to be set to no. And the most important thing is, it says deploy Visual Studio debug runtime libraries. That must be set to yes. It's not enabled by default. We cannot set it right now within QMake. Maybe we can change that within 5.6, but within 5.7 we clearly have to take care of that. If you do not have that set on yes, you will just get an instant crash because it cannot find malloc and all the different, well, C runtime items. So you need to specify that manually, and interestingly, the C runtime, or at least the debug version, is not on your device image like the Raspberry Pi, etc. by default. So it's not included in the default image. I was hoping I could show you now actually something running, but the Raspberry Pi wireless driver doesn't work yet, and we only have wireless connections here. So I cannot even start something here right now and showing you that it actually does deploy. So you have to believe me that when afterwards, it's like you've been doing before. You hit the run button on the remote machine, you just specify when it calls the very same process, compiling, WinDeploy Qt, packaging everything together, sending to that machine via core connectivity, invoke the debugger, and then you're ready to go. Okay. There's one last item, maybe and that is the deployment. No, it should be there, yes. Deployment. How do you basically get all your packages, or how do you get your final package to deploy to the store? I was starting that discussion yesterday a bit already. The problem is, when you see the evolution of the packaging system itself, what Microsoft refers to with the Universal Windows platform is that you have one package which is then in the store being deployed to the various platforms itself. So the Universal Windows platform contains all binaries for all CPU architectures, which is pretty neat from their side. Unfortunately, it contradicts with what we have with QMake. Because QMake right now has the one-to-one match, like you have one make spec for one specific target. And the big difference is also, one could now, for instance, say, like, hey, on Mac and iOS, you have fat binaries, right? And you support that with Qt. The difference is that it's not the very same binary. So those packages are not like fat binaries on Mac, where you have one executable with the different architecture runtimes being loaded. It is actually a zip package which contains subfolders with the various packages then for the target platforms. And we don't know yet how we want to solve that issue, so that neatly you can then push your Qt application for the various platforms with a universal Windows package. Right now you can create the project like I've been showing you, and then publish those CPU-specific packages to the store, mark it to an application, and then you have an x86, x64, and an ARM package, and then basically put that to the same application when deployment still works, but you do not have one package for everything. And I'm also open for that discussion after my talk if somebody of you has ideas. One idea might be to, there has been some suggestion to use QBS, for instance, which might have, which could be a clear benefit from that because it allows to have those additional steps to just building. But as of now, we don't know, and we're open for suggestions from your side. So, to summarize, it does take a while to get the setup being done. You've seen that in the beginning. I want to make clear that 5.6 will fully support Windows 10 with all the, with all the items fixed you have been seeing today as well. If you want to start right now, just follow basically what I have been presenting, and to emphasize again, please use the 5.6 branch and Qt Creator Master, because otherwise, for instance, applications will not start from Qt Creator itself. Various changes we needed to do already tooling-wise. And that concludes my presentation. Any question from your side? Yeah?
You test CMake with Windows 10 and
The question was, sorry, I'm repeating it for the video recording. The question is whether we have had tested CMake with Windows 10. We personally know. I know that someone from the community has been testing it, but he didn't come back to us with whether it worked or not. Certainly, it's something we need to look at as soon as we have stabilized Qt itself. One question here?
What is the minimum deployment target going to be for WinRT in the short term? Is it 8.1?
The question was the minimum deployment target. That refers to what's basically, if you want to do a WinRT application, so the minimum platform you have to use is Windows 8.1 and Windows Phone 8.1. I think it was when we introduced Qt for WinRT with Qt 5.4, we already needed to skip Windows Phone 8.0 and Windows 8.0. Personally, I don't see that as a big issue because there's upgrades for everyone from 8 to 8.1. And even the Lumia 920 you can see at the booth, that even got an 8.1 update via the operator these days. So de facto 8.0 devices should not be present. Was one question there?
What about access to files and file system and registry? Is that sandboxed out?
Okay, the question is access to files and the registry itself and whether that is supported. To a large extent, no. You're right that everything is sandboxed by default. So you're not capable of accessing arbitrary files. You can, for instance, have a file dialog and get like your images, go to your own documents, etc. So that is enabled by default. If you want to go to an arbitrary location, for visuals, in Windows 10 they introduced an enterprise capability, which is supposed to do some magic. That's not documented yet, but it clearly goes into the direction that you can do more outside of the sandbox if you have that enterprise capability set. However, you cannot publish an application to the store with that capability right now. But that might also go hand in hand because on Windows 10, an enterprise or a corporate can have their own custom store these days. So they can establish basically a proxy in the middle, and then they can deploy their own enterprise applications to basically all the employees. So that might go hand in hand with that setup, but we don't have more details yet on that. Any further questions? One in the back? The question is whether QtWidgets is supported. It was asked yesterday as well, actually. Yes, it is. It's your choice what you want to use, whether you want to use QtWidgets or QtQuick. We might have our own opinion on, depending on the platform you're targeting, what you want to use or should use, but still the choice is yours. Yeah?
Are these live tiles on Windows 10 supported by classic desktop applications?
The question is whether live tiles are also supported for desktop applications. I don't know for sure. I do know that you can have some of those package settings in a separate XML file being co-located with your executable. I'm not sure, to be honest, whether it works for live tiles as well. But I'm going to check on that. Okay, if nothing else, then thank you and enjoy the rest of the day.